course, inside of each pouch is a little info card, and it tells you right up here in the corner, this other corner, oh lordy, and this is called ESG-TF is the item number for this foot. And what it is, check it out, it looks like it's plastic, but it's actually Teflon. So if you're sewing on leather or vinyl, any type of fabric that's real sticky and it wants to stick to a metal foot, this is when you would use this. So I'm just going to install this foot. Now, here's what I am going to be sewing on, but I want to do something. I want to trim some of this. I want you to check this stuff out. This is what I call pleather. It's a real heavy fabric. It has a nap on the back of it. Think you could do like fake leather pillows or for upholstery. Or what I purchased, I purchased 2 big rolls of this one and this other one, because I'm going to make messenger bags and wallets out of it. Okay? Okay. So we are going, first I'm just going to do a straight stitch so you can see what this would do. And I'm also going to pull out my J-foot out of my treasure box. That's what I call this. Treasure box, because it has little wonderful little treasures in it. And my J-foot was supposed to be right there. Where did I put my J-foot? Oh, it's right up here where how many of you all do this? This little recessed area up here? Yeah, there's where my J-foot was. I have a bad habit about just putting stuff up there. So it's another piece of housekeeping I have to do occasionally to clean that area off. But it's a handy little place to, when you're using a bunch of different feet, just to lay a foot up there. Okay. So, and I need to thread my needle yet. I think. Yes. Okay. Now, what thread I am using, when I buy thread, I normally buy it on the cone, whether it's for embroidery or for quilting or for sewing. Because I go through a lot of thread and I just like to buy it on the cone. That way I always have a lot. What I am using right now is this Madeira Arrow Quilt. Okay, it's a 40 weight thread. There's 3,000 yards on one cone. And that's how I like to buy my thread that I'm using a lot of. So I quilt a lot with that thread. So first I am actually going to put my J-foot on because it's has a metal base on it. Okay. And we're going to do a straight stitch. I'm going to go to my utility stitches, straight stitch. Okay. I'm going to stitch 1-03. It's 2.5 millimeters in length. Now, I'm going to go slow, and let's see how this does on pleather. I call that a vinyl leather, and this is embossed. It is not a smooth surface. Let's see how it does with the J-stitch. The J-foot, not the J-stitch. And it's doing okay. However, I can tell that it's not feeding as smoothly as it could because the stitches are not perfectly straight and it's wanting to wobble back and forth a lot. And that's because it's hanging up. So what it's doing as it goes through, it's kind of going like this. Okay, it's wiggling to the sideways as it feeds through. So I'm going to cut that. Okay, and it's not bad. However, let's see if you can see those stitches. Maybe I should have used a lighter thread. There we go. You can see they're not perfectly straight. It's got great stitch formation. The auto tension, perfect. However, when you get a good look at it, each stitch, it wants to lean to the left and to the right, and that is because I did not have a Teflon foot on it. Oops, right there. So we're going to do this. I'm not going to touch any of the settings on the machine, but I'm going to do another set of stitches right beside it using the Teflon foot. Okay. And yes, I can tell the difference. I mean, if you have it far away, if you look far away from it, it's not as noticeable. But if you get up and look really close, I don't know if you can see it on camera, but the wobbling of the stitches stopped with that foot on it. Okay. Now, it doesn't stick as bad on this textured vinyl as it would a smooth vinyl. So you would even notice more of a what I call a fishtailing on the end of a stitch if you'd had it running on smooth vinyl or smooth leather. Okay, so now just because we're here and we can, let's try a zigzag stitch on it. That's always a good test. I selected stitch dash 110, and I'm going to put it all the way up to 7 millimeters wide. 1.4 is on the length, and we're going to give that a shot. That looks pretty good coming out of the back. Oh, actually, that looks really good coming out of the back. Okay. And now I'm going to try a really decorative stitch on top of this. This will be a really good test because these stitches will have a backwards and forwards motion to them. So I'm just going to try. Do I want to do that? Why not? I'm going to try a candle wicking stitch, even though this is not a candle wicking foot, and we're going to see what happens. I'll speed it up. But the key is using a Teflon foot whenever you're sewing on anything that's vinyl or leathery or even something like mylar, which would be sticky. Now what I just did there, I had it set on continuous stitching. So I'm going to just show you a little trick on any of your stitch menus. Okay. So this is how I was sewing it. You can see it's just repeating that one stitch over and over again. However, when you get to the end of where you're kind of wanting to go or close to it, and let's say you want to have a complete one full stitch and stop, touch this button, and that's what I did. When it finished that last stitch, it stopped. Now, when it does that, if I needed it to go a little bit further, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to go right over here and sew another stitch. But when you have it set to single stitch mode, it will only sew one stitch and then it will stop. And it will automatically slow up when it gets to the end. But look how nice it did the candle wicking stitches on the leather. Pleather, fake leather, vinyl, whatever you want to call it. Pretty cool. And we will do one more that has more movement to it. This is always a fun stitch. Right here. That's stitch number 3-24. And I am going to put it on continuous. Now, since the needle's still down, I'm just going to rotate my fabric like this, and I'm going to start sewing. Okay, that was one complete one. See there? Now I'm going to go ahead and have it on repeat pattern. Let's try it again. We'll do 2 or 3 of them. And let's say right now I decided I was coming up to where I wanted it to stop, but I want it to complete that pattern. Press that button again. And I have my foot pedal pressed all the way down, but that's how it automatically slows itself up. Excuse me. So I'm going to cut my thread and pull this out. Oh, that looks very nice. You can see what it did right there. Okay. So that is it. And now if we were putting in a zipper, there's also the Teflon zipper foot. Same instance, vinyl or leather. You always want to use a Teflon foot, if at all possible. If you just can't use it for your project, you'll just have to you can slow up the speed of your machine to help compensate for that stickiness, but it's better off for you to use that Teflon foot. Okay, that being said, let's try something different with this. I'm going to move my camera back up here. Okay, there. Okay, so now I have another piece, a different type of pleather, and I'm going to call it pleather from now on. So I'm just going to cut me out a shape out of this, and I'm going to applique this piece onto the first piece. Let's see. I am just going to cut a triangle. Right there. Okay. And we are going to applique this on top of our other piece of pleather. Okay. Let's see what I've got there. Now I'm going to go over here and go to my quilting menu, and I am going to select Q14, which is a blanket stitch. And I'm going to leave the settings to default, and I'm going to sew down one edge of this triangle. Now I'm not gluing it or anything else, so I'm going to set this up so you can see it. Let's see here. There we go. That will work. So I'm going to put excuse me. So I'm going to place I'm going to place the cut edge of my applique right on the center line of this foot. Now, the only negative thing to using this foot to try to applique with, you can't see through the foot. So you're going to have to line that edge up kind of with what your needle position is. I'm going to lower that needle. Another way to do it, you can do it that way, or if you're having difficulty seeing that needle to line it up for that first stitch, drop your foot and then line it up to where the needle mark is. Hold it in place, and then we're going to reattach the foot. There we go. Right there like that. Okay. Another way to do that is to turn on your laser light. And we're going to line the laser light up with our needle position. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the plus sign. To line it up, I'm going to do this. And that's going to move my laser light to the left. And you can see here, you can just line up the red light right on that stitching line. Right here. There, it's perfectly lined up. But can you see what I did there? We're going to line up that red line on top of the rightmost solid line coming down for our blanket stitch. And then we can line up our stitch, our edge of our fabric that we're going to applique. See that mark? So I can just line that up right there up to that line to get started. That's the really super easy way to do it. One of the great things, if you do have a Baby Lock machine with that laser light like this one, you can do this with any of those machines. Okay. So, right there is where we're going to get started. Lower that presser foot and away. Oops, one more time. Away we go. And what I'm doing here, I'm just keeping the edge of my applique right on that red line. Now, since this is pleather, I'm not using a leather needle, but if you were actually sewing on leather, you need to use an actual leather needle to do this. There's a difference in the shape of the tip and the shank. Now, is why it makes it easier to punch through leather. Now, when we're going to turn a corner, we want to have the needle stop in the rightmost position, like it is there, and then we're just going to rotate it until the other line lines up right there like that. And look at that stitching. That looks pretty darn good to me. So here we go. Right here. I didn't get the straightest cut on this, so I am adjusting its placement as it's feeding through. I am just guiding the fabric. I am not pushing it through one bit. The machine is doing all of the work. One more. One more. Right there's where I want to turn. And now we're going to do down the last side. Check out that corner. Isn't that pretty? So don't be afraid to use stuff like this when in your sewing projects. Because quite honestly, if a person wanted to, you could actually use this vinyl, this pleather, to make a quilt out of. Yes, you heard me right. You could actually quilt this if you wanted to. I know someone who actually free motions on leather. Thin leather, mind you, but boy, howdy, it is beautiful. And when I get down here, one more. Now I am going to hit the tie off button to tie off my thread before I cut it. And all it does goes needle up, needle down. Then I'm going to hit my scissors. And there we go. Applique on faux leather.